Well, back when we started this thing, I think it was June or July, I said that we are going to drive this truck out of this garage in the springtime. Well, now that it's January, you're thinking, oh, we got plenty of time. But the first day of spring is just over 10 weeks away. Yeah, so that doesn't leave us a whole lot of time. And I think looking at it like that, we're way behind schedule, man. So I think it's time to kick this build into overdrive. All right, we left off last week getting that engine back in the truck, finally getting those motor mounts in. I'm sure glad that's done. That was a big pain. Anyway, we got a whole bunch of parts that have to go on. Shiny new one-wire alternator. Oh, ain't she pretty? Oh, yeah. So I think it's time to put this engine back together. Let's get to it, man. All right, we're all set to go. We got our torque spec cheat sheet. Let's put this thing together. Well, we got one head on, all right. Went to put the other one on and forgot about this. We got a stud broke off in there. So that's going to slow us down. I got to see if I can get this thing out of here. All right, we've had our lifters marinating in oil for about a month and a half. And yes, these are the old lifters we're putting back in. So let's do that, and then we can get this intake back on. Probably should mention that I did not get that stud out of this head. I drilled it out and I thought I had some speed outs, but I don't. I'm gonna have to go get some. I'm not even sure a speed out's gonna do it. We may have to end up drilling the whole thing out and retapping it. I don't know, but I wanted to get this engine together today. We can tackle that another day. Hey, what's going on, guys? We're out here once again on the old 46. With a good news, bad news scenario, unfortunately. The bad news is our headers are not going to fit on this because this motor mount is set back so far that we're just not going to be able to fit that in there. It just barely misses, but it misses. We could take a hammer to it but that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of putting headers on if we start restricting the airflow. So this motor is pretty worn out, so it's not a race vehicle, it's not a high performance vehicle. So we're just going to go ahead and throw the old manifolds back on and call it good. We'll save these headers for another project. I got looking at it last night before I went in the house, and I was thinking, I bet you we're going to have an issue there. Sure enough, we do on both sides. I just don't think taking a hammer to those headers is the right thing to do. They weren't that expensive, so we'll just save them for another project, and we'll put the manifolds back on here. Right now, we're going to go ahead and take an air hose to those push rods and clean them out. Make sure there's no debris inside of them. We're going to get those in, rocker arms back on, and continue this build. So while we are on the subject of fitment, we're going to have to, you can see how close that valve cover is to the steering column. There is some adjustment to this. We can loosen it up and pull it up inside. I think that'll give us just enough clearance. Let's just say hopefully that'll give us enough clearance to get this steering linkage in. Okay, I got the column pulled up into the firewall as far as it'll go. We did gain quite a bit of clearance, but we may still have to cut this off just a little bit. We probably should check that out now because I don't want to get too far into this and have to, start taking stuff apart again. So let me grab the knuckle for that and we'll see if we can get it on. Okay, I'm jumping in here again to show you guys what we got going on with the steering. Always something, man. But anyway, this was the joint that came out of the steering column, and they had it mounted down here so it kind of worked but didn't work. It was resting on the control arms and all that. So I put the steering column back in the original position, but because this engine is set so far back in here, we're going to have an issue with the valve covers no matter what we do. So I have decided to get the steering in, and then we'll worry about the valve cover afterwards. So my idea, we're going to join these two together here. I have a joint here, get it up off the manifold and down to the steering box. Maneuvering around that valve cover is going to be the issue. Now I don't know if once we get this in place, we might be able to sneak that in there, but even if we do, when you do a revolution with the wheel, it may rub on there. We may have to find some different valve covers for it. I don't know, or we'll have to modify this one. Steering is more important than the valve cover at this point. And it may flip-flop later, but right now, the steering is more important than the valve cover. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we're going to go ahead and get the steering in, just so that we know that's going to be good, and then we'll worry about the valve cover later. Okay, so we got it here. We got everything connected. We just have to make sure we got enough. That's why I left this adjustable here, to make sure we had enough clearance on this manifold. It's going to be tight, there's no doubt about it, but we still have some adjustment. That valve cover just might fit that. Maybe not. Yeah, no. We're definitely going to have an issue there. So we're going to have to figure out what we need to do to get both of these things to play well together. Okay, so we went and spent an unexpected half day on making sure the steering was going to work. The clearances are going to be tight, and we're going to have to do something about the valve cover, but we will be able to get it to work. So I think we should go back to what I said 4 hours ago, get some compressed air and blow these push rods out and get them back in here. Let's do that. Okay, we got our valve lash all set. I guess we can go ahead and throw the intake on this now. All right, guys, we made some great progress today on the engine. She's looking really good. Oh, yeah. She's starting to come together. We still got some tweaking to do to make the steering fit. But all in all, I think we had a good day out here. We'll be back out here again tomorrow, hopefully. Get the rest of this engine put together. We get the radiator support back on. Radiator back in. Power steering pump. Alternator maybe. There's a lot to do. So we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Remember when I told you all a couple of days ago that we need to kick this build into overdrive because spring, 10 short weeks away? You would not know it by looking out here today. No, sir, you would not. But that's not going to stop us from continuing the build on this old 46. So let's get to it, man. Well, we got about 1.5 feet of snow overnight last night, which is always fun. But we have a truck to build, and we got a short time to do it. So if we're going to meet our deadline, we got to get working. All right, I've been fiddling with this distributor for a while. Finally got it to seat. Pointing at number 1 cylinder. We are at top dead center here. So we should be pretty good, pretty close. So let's keep moving on. Went and mocked up the water pump. I don't have gaskets for it yet. I just wanted to refresh my memory on the bracketry of how this thing goes back together. And I did find out that I missed a bracket. This one right here. So we're going to need to clean this up, paint it. Also, we may be doing a carburetor rebuild. I mean, it ran pretty good, but she's pretty scuzzy. And I don't think the electric choke was even hooked up on it when it was running. So we'll probably just take it apart, go through it, clean it up, because it's really nasty looking. I guess that's going to be it for today out here. I've got a lot of snow removal to do, so we'll catch back up with you tomorrow. Hey, welcome back to yet another day of working on the old 46. Today, I'm going to run down to the auto parts store and see if we can't get a rebuild kit for this carburetor. And I need some water pump gaskets and a few other odds and ends. I guess the plan today is to do as much as we can on the engine, and then we're going to move to the back of the truck, button up the wiring in the back of the truck so that the only thing left to do is to wire our engine compartment. I've ordered a couple more components for our steering linkage. We need to install one of those steering linkage stabilizers because there's probably more joints in it than I'd like to see, but I don't see any other way of doing that. But we will make it work, and we will keep our cobulation to a minimum, I hope. So without further ado, let's get to work, man. We got our power steering pump in, all hooked up, alternator in. I'm going to wait to bolt the manifolds on until we get the steering exactly how we need to have it. So I think we've taken it as far as we can take it today. We're going to go ahead and jump to the back of the truck and do the taillight wiring. I don't know what the rules are in other states, but in this state, if this truck didn't come from the factory with it, you don't need to have it on there. So this truck here didn't have a reverse light. I don't even think it had but one tail light in the back. No signal lights. So technically speaking, I wouldn't have to do all that stuff. But for safety purposes, I think I'd like to put it on. I still have to do something for parking lights. The Cadillac tail lights, it's a 2-bulb socket, so one for brake, one for turn. One more important thing that we are going to do, this truck does not have one, is an emergency brake. I have yet to pull the drums off the back to see if it's set up for one. For whatever reason, when they put this cab on this chassis from the S10, they pulled all the emergency brake system right out of here. So we're going to have to see what we got to work with back there and order parts accordingly. But right now, I'm going to go in the house to get some lunch because it's lunchtime. So it's been quite a few weeks since we looked at the back of this truck. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the wiring back here, but I will tell you that I know a lot of people liked these tail lights sticking out. I'm not a fan of it. I think I'm going to take the spacers out, recess them back in. I'll save the spacers just in case I get overruled. But for now, I think I'm just going to go ahead and recess them back in. Probably going to be a good time to pull this drum off too and check out this e-brake situation. Pads look pretty good. Alright guys, I'm not going to bore you with another wiring segment, but I just want to show you that the wires dedicated to the tail end of the truck, brakes, right turn, left turn, and the tail light wire, the brown one, is the one that we're going to splice into our license plate as well, so when we turn tail lights on back here, that'll come on as well. So all I'm going to do is just use these red butt connectors, splice the wires together onto the fixture, and use the heat shrink to seal it in so no moisture gets in there. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, and we'll be back. Alright man, so I think that's going to do it for this week. We got quite a bit done on the engine. I didn't quite finish the wiring on the back, but I'm in the process of doing that. I pulled the brake drums off. They look pretty decent on the inside, so we're just going to go ahead and wire brush them and put a coat of paint on them, put them back on. I got to order parts for the e-brake. All right, so next week we'll rebuild this carburetor, get her all cleaned up, get her back on the engine. Continue working on our door panels. Maybe we'll make the inserts for them. Depending on how the weather goes, we might be able to do a little painting. Don't know. But whatever we can do, we will do. I think that's going to do it, man. So until next week, take it easy.